Hey, everybody, welcome to the podcast. My guest today is Ling Li. Ling is a creative entrepreneur. She is the founder of Ling Studios and the host of Light a Spark podcast, where she sits down and interviews different people. Ling got her master's degree in journalism from the University of Sheffield, and she's worked with the Center for China and Globalization as a comms manager and editor. She's also worked in the past as an editor with one of China's top news outlets, China Daily. She's here today to discuss life as a creative in China, cultural exchanges and differences, the work culture among China's vibrant youth, and many other subjects. It's an incredible conversation. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. I appreciate you watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And without further ado, this is me and Ling. Let's start with your basic introduction as you. I have a very interesting question for you. The first day I watched your video, I'm like, but I'll get to that question after. So how would you introduce yourself, your origin story, how you've, shaped yourself as a professional from a young age to this point? Because I went through your LinkedIn account and you have a very interesting resume. So, talk us through how that origin till now started.
Okay, great. So first of all, thank you, Teo, for having me. Actually, I'm a big fan of your videos and your podcast. I would do maybe a little bit introduction about myself. My name is Ling, actually, and I'm from mainland China, and now I'm living in Kunming City, the capital city of Yunnan province. I think probably you don't know where it is located in southwestern China. And I'm now a full-time content creator. But before that, I spent more than 3 years as a communications manager at a think tank based in Beijing. But my first job was an editor at China Daily, a newspaper in China. But I didn't stay there for very long. It's just about 4 months. So when I realized that being an editor in a Chinese newspaper was not what I want to do, when I switched my major from material chemistry to journalism, so I just decided to quit. By the way, having said that, I previously studied material chemistry in Central South University in China for my undergraduate degree, and I chose to change my major to journalism when I got to my master degree, which I decided to study journalism in the UK. Well, I know you might say that's so crazy. That's how a lot of people reacted at the time. Of course, including my parents. But I was so lucky because even though my parents might not have understood what I was doing, and they would have been very worried about my future, but they decide to support me, so I really appreciate it. But my hometown is a very, very small border town in Yunnan, where it belongs to one of China's less developed regions. I was the first person in my family to go to university. So,
What?
yeah, I know. And I also the oldest child in the family. So my parents had my parents just have a great expectation of me. But despite this, they still choose to support me. So I'm really, really grateful for that. They always let me choose my own path. So that's really great. And in fact, yeah, I know. And in fact, as you just check my resume on LinkedIn, you will find that actually I have been making some decisions that many people may not understand, including the matter. Including the matter I mentioned before, just changing my major, and of course include matter of suddenly quitting my job and going back to my hometown to start my own studio as a content creator. Especially when my career in Beijing was actually developing well. So in fact, part of the reason for that was that my family needed me at that time. It's very objective reason, but actually there was another reason deep inside me. So the long, repetitive, and often overtime work had made me lose part of myself, I think. Let me take an example. So one day I just found out I couldn't write anymore, but that's something I really love,
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah. So I found that I could no longer write something like, I want to be the sea, deep but wide blue in the sun. I know it's not a really big deal to write some sentence like that, but I really love the person I was at the time when I wrote it. So you see, it's just like a puzzle. I lost a piece of it, so I can't be complete. I feel I just lose a piece of my soul. I can say that. So I just decided to leave. But of course, I actually learned a lot from my former boss and colleagues at my last company, and I enjoyed the time working with them. But I knew it's time to leave.
To move on.
So here I am. Yeah. So here I am. I'm now doing what I love. I like to write, to talk to people from different backgrounds like you, to create, to think and to learn from each other. So I have to say that even though I can say that I'm a poor now, but I'm very happy. I'm back. Yeah, I'm back being the girl with a passion. I believe that things are going to better and better.
Yeah.
That's I hope.
Yes, that's really great. I feel like you've discovered your spark, if I'm going to use that word, since you are the host of Light a Spark anyways.
That's great.
So you've discovered that spark again. But I want to get to that, as to the reason why you were able to make that decision. But before that, I'm curious, why did you switch from a bachelor's in material chemistry to journalism?
Oh, this quite an interesting story back in there. I think I don't know if you know familiar with the education system here in China. When we got the exam, the exam for the college. Actually, we didn't know.
Gaokao.
Yeah, Gaokao. We have no idea what kind of majors is about, what kind of majors about, and we have no clues about that. But at the same time, we are facing a time to choose a major, and we have to choose a university. So most of the graduates from high school, we just thought about. We just compared the ranking of the universities and the ranking of the majors. So we made a choice based on this kind of stuff. When I got in the college, I found out a lot of people actually they don't like the major they study, and after this graduate from the college. They just, when they have to look for a job, they just randomly to find a job they don't really love. And most of the time, the job even doesn't relate to the major they studied back in the uni. Yeah, so it's quite weird thing, I think. But for my personal story, I just one of them. I just choose the best subject in my university, and for the university I chose is because it's ranked very well. It's a top 10 university for the material chemistry in China, I think, at the time. So I just chose this major and this university, and I luckily got in.
You must have scored high at the Gaokao then. If you got in, you must have scored high.
It's I can't say I did it well, but it's okay. I did it. It's okay.
For a lot of our listeners, for a lot of our listeners who perhaps do not know what Gaokao is, how would you explain it to people easily? What is Gaokao? Because I feel like there's a lot of similarities also in a lot of countries. We have something similar to Gaokao, but what is Gaokao?
So basically, Gaokao is kind of like a college requirement examination for the Chinese students. Basically, you have to spend like a 3 year in high school, and you have to pass this examination to get a proper university. To getting a proper university. So it's kind of like, I think it's kind of like A-level test, but I think it's definitely not the same education system in terms of how we learn and the goal of the education system, I think. So I'm not sure if I make a very clear explanation, but I tried my best.
I think you have. Yeah. I think you have. In a way, it's similar to the same as a college entrance exam that most places will have. So before you get into a university, you have to take a certain level of of tests. Sometimes maybe SATs or things like that, or like JAM in some countries in West Africa, something called a JAM, Joint Admission Matriculation Board. So it's great to see that that you're lighting that spark, as you would say.
Thank you.
As you would say. So let's go to you as a creative now, life as a creative. You mentioned that you left your job at, by the way, with C.C.G. C.C.G is the Center for China and Globalization, and you were a communications manager. Yeah, you were a comms manager there. So you've left that, and now you are working as a creative entrepreneur. You have your own studio. Why is this the way? Why a creative entrepreneur?
When I first time I realized I really like the stuff like creating stuff. It's actually, I have to say that I love writing all the time. And when I got in the university, actually, like I said before, as the more I learned about material chemistry, the more I realized that I actually don't like that, and so I just tried different kind of stuff to do and found my passion where my passion is. So once I just worked as a volunteer in a jazz festival, a musical festival, and I help them like record videos and do some interviews, like very short one, but I really enjoy it. So I just found out I really love the feeling to communicate with the people, and I love writing. So why not just make something, just include all of stuff. So I just think of the journalism, maybe will be the perfect subject I can try. So I just changed my major from the science to the journalism. And I think I just got it. I got the point. So it's so nice to when I studying the journalism in the UK, and I found I really love to create the content, including the videos and the maybe for the podcast and something like that. So I just give it a try. So actually, I found Lightning Studio in September last year. It's called Lightning Studio. It's okay because because lots of people say the wrong way.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have noticed that the spelling of lightning is actually the same as the spelling of my name, Ling. So it's okay. So
my bad.
But It's okay. It's okay. So, but thanks for the opportunity to let me explain this, my studio. Actually, Lightning Studio, of course, LING refers to lightning, and
Yes.
L is for light, and ING is for inspiring the new generation. So
Oh,
my studio values are: we believe the world needs light, which are inspire the new generation, and we are gonna be the light. So I've actually always want to do a video to trying to introduce my studio, but here's the thing.
great.
I asked one of my friends who is also a designer to help me to do like a studio logo, but it
Okay.
hasn't been finished yet. So it's
See.
like a perfect excuse for me to keep putting off doing this video. anyway, that's the idea behind why I create this
The
studio.
studio.
That at that time, yes, and I
Great.
think part of the reason why I created the studio, like I've said it before, is that it's what I've always want to do. Of course, that's the key. I want to do that. But in addition to that, during my working years, including my master's in the UK, I have met many wonderful people who may who may travel the world, who may speak multiple languages, who may spend years in a particular country just to
Yeah.
understand and learn about the country's
Yeah.
culture. Maybe just like you. So they have one thing in common. I found out they are cultural inclusive. They
Yeah.
have compassion for the less fortunate. They fight for justice, and they try to make the world heard, even though the world won't allow it. So I think in this complex and confusing world, they shed their light to the world, and they make every effort they can do just to make the world a better place, which I really appreciate. And eventually, I believe they will be the light, even if it doesn't change anything in the end, but it will somehow inspire the next generation of young people to go on. So that's why I want to start this studio. I want to create a platform for them to be heard and to show the world how our generation of people really see the world.
Wow.
People always say, people always say that young people are the future, but they
Yes.
don't listen to them. That's weird. It's
That's
strange.
ironic, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's a strange word that I really hope the student can make a bit of noise. Yeah.
Hopefully your studio creates that outlet where young people can really start to shape the future of the world. Also considering the time that we're in now, it's
Mm-hmm.
really, really necessary and important for young people to come together to create the world that we want. Um, in that regard. So very good. Like I'm really impressed
Exactly.
with
Exactly.
what you want to do. So let's from a
Thank you.
strategy and like film house or media house
Okay.
studio perspective, what exactly is the plan
Okay.
for Ling Studio? So are you going to go into commercial cinematography, documentaries,
Mm-hmm.
or what?
Mm-hmm. Well, to be honest, um, it's something I have to mention the challenge I'm facing now. Okay, so first, if you want to do something you like, you have to make it survive. So you have to make money on
Absolutely.
it. But um, in speaking of funding, although the current equipment can basically meet the needs of filming and photographing, something like that,
Yeah.
but if we are looking for better results, even better equipment is not too much to ask. You know
Yeah.
what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So, and as a full-time content creator, we actually have no income for quite a long time during the pre-creation phase. So
Yeah.
we must find ways to make money through other means to sustain the content you really want to make.
Yeah.
But this will somehow affect the process of creating content, including maybe delays, and you maybe just cancel it as the project you are doing because you just don't have time to do it. So this is a very major challenge I'm facing now. And with regard to content creation, I think the first issue is about language. So currently, Lightning Studio is based in China, and most of my content is actually in English. And the main, I know it's weird, but the main reason I do this is because I want to communicate with people outside the Chinese-speaking world and give people in the non-Chinese world a better understanding of what young Chinese people really think and how they live in China and so on. So I want to create a connection, and using the language that they most are familiar with is the easiest way to do that.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I speak in English a lot in a lot of contexts. Yes, exactly.
And even
But
also
this
to add
means-
to that, sorry, it's the fact that
Yeah,
there are
sure.
more
Go
young
ahead.
people now in China that speak English. So also breaking that stereotype that, maybe there's not a lot of English speakers in China. That's a lie. There are a lot of English speakers in China. So you being an example of that, you creating content is an example of that. In that way, you're able to bring more, Chinese people who speak English to also share their experiences as well.
Oh, thank you for saying that. But you know what? By speaking English in China, actually, this means that I may lose some Chinese subscribers, Chinese followers.
Audience, in a way.
Therefore, yeah, exactly, exactly. So, I think I have to change my my strategy. So I think all my content should be available in English and Chinese as well, and at least just to provide English and Chinese subtitles. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. And the second challenge regarding content creation, I think, is the question of whether to preserve quality or quantity.
I see.
Okay, so, but actually from my current uptake frequency, you can see that it's clear that my approach is to preserve quality. I can't say that I did a very great video, but I tried my best. But at the same time, that's the reason why a lot of my friends come up to me and ask why you are not updating anymore. The only thing I can reply that, come on, good work is worth the wait.
Absolutely.
But in fact, I know in my heart that I should keep updating at a certain frequency. Otherwise, I will lose subscribers, and I don't want to lose but at the same time, I don't want to lose the quality. So my strategy at the moment, I think, is to slowly increase the frequency of updates, but only if I can guarantee the quality of the content.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And I think the third challenge regarding content creation is whether to follow the trend of creating content that goes viral or to create content you like. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you have the problem here because I watched some of your videos and you mentioned the question, this challenge. Okay, so to tell you the truth, you see, I haven't updated my YouTube channel for quite a long time. I actually made a video about the 1 cent challenge. I'm not sure if you know that. So basically, which is where I have to trade one cent and end up with something that could be worth like 1,000 kuai in RMB.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds very fun, a lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
But I thought it so actually. But when I finish it, I finished all of process, including recording and editing. I finished all of that, but I was hesitate to upload it because it wasn't what the channel want to be about. in the first place. So I decided to change. But I have to make a decision that to change my strategy and embrace the different content. I think I have to do that. And I told myself that it would be fun to challenge something that I couldn't do before. So maybe I would just upload this episode, maybe this video, maybe next week. All right. I think I have to mention one of challenges is about time management, because the funny thing is about time is that if you tell people you work with as a content creator, they must think you are very flexible with your time and very free. Yeah, exactly. But that's not the case. A good content creation takes a lot of time, including upfront to plan and do research. Yes, we spend a lot of time on doing research, and we also spend a lot of time consider to invite which guest to join this show maybe, and we have to consider which way to record is best, and we have to organize all of the materials after recording, and we have to review it, and all of these are very specific and complex steps. I just have a feeling that since I became a content creator, I've been I feel like I always on the way. I'm thinking of the ideas when I'm walking my dog, which is actually, so you see.
And now
sorry.
he's coming.
All right, I just continue. No, Danny, no.
Danny's trying to get on the show, people.
Yeah, okay. Let me take an example. So for my podcast, Lighter Spark, it's a weekly podcast. It's actually a weekly podcast. So basically, I have to update every Monday, which means I'm probably working all weekend. So now my friends can't even ask me go out on the weekend.
Yeah.
But I think I will figure out a way around that. For example, maybe by planning ahead and getting done before the weekend. It sounds really challenging for me and difficult for me, but all I can say is I will do my best. And sorry to my friend.
You mentioned something before, which is your time studying in Sheffield. Just sort of give us like a brief summary of how was life in Sheffield?
I've been there for a year for my master's study. So basically, I enjoy most of time over there because why I choose to study in the UK, of course, because I love the British culture, and I even like the British accent in English. So
I see.
So you see the reason why I choose that for my master degree, and but I think Sheffield is kind of city. It's kind of a hilly city. So basically, you have to climb mountains if you go anywhere you want to go. I do a lot of exercise at the time. Thank you, Sheffield. Actually, I really appreciate it. And I think when I study over there, I found a lot of cultural differences between the British culture and the Chinese culture. But I think it is great because when speaking of cultural differences, we should avoid looking at the outside world in terms of our own culture. We should respect the diversity of cultures. So I developed a theory of my own that as long as we are human beings, we always have like prejudice. But more importantly, we need to know how to break them down. So I think the best way to do that is to go and talk to people from different cultures, like I mentioned before, and to learn from each other, and even to be able to go go the country and immerse yourself in the local. And that's the thing I did when I was in the UK. So, by the way, I have to mention one point here. It's really important about the cultural differences. I think compared to the Western media's criticism that Chinese confidence in Chinese culture makes Chinese people look down on others, that's something I think is totally nonsense, because I think the most of people, if you have been to China and have actually made a friend with Chinese people, you can feel immediately that most of Chinese people are actually very humble. And why people are saying that for the Chinese people? I think this is because from a historical view, in the course of Chinese 2,000 years of feudal history, Confucianism actually played a very vital role and held a deep-rooted position of dominance, and has had a very profound and a very long-lasting influence on Chinese society. So the Chinese attach importance to the traditional hierarchy of ruler and subject, father and son, and seniority, whereas in the British country and American countries, elders and juniors are on all equal footing, regardless of the boundaries between the old and the young, and tend to get along as friends. You know what? This was one of the big cultural difference I felt when I first arrived in the UK. And it's interesting because you found that in China, when we call people, for example, if there's an elderly lady, then when you call her, you might call her sister or auntie and so on, something in Chinese in China. So you call 姐姐 sister or 阿姨 auntie. Yeah, exactly. But you just can never just call an elderly lady as auntie on the street in Sheffield.
Yeah.
It's kind of very rude in the West, I think. So you see the difference is quite big over there. And I think in terms of the family ties, I'd like to mention that the Chinese traditions has always about 4 generations in one family, and family reunion. And there is an old saying that when parents are here, you do not travel far.
Yes.
So in Britain, it's unthinkable that 18-year-old still live at home and depend on the parents. Yeah, they have to live independently on their own.
Yeah.
But similarly, older parents in the UK, even if they have lost the ability to take care of themselves, do not usually leave the children behind, and are often placed in homes for the elderly and cared for by the society. I'm saying that because I worked as a volunteer when I was in the UK for the care house. I visited a lot, almost like care homes in Sheffield. And I just saw the elders, they just stay at the care homes by their own. And some people just told me their son or daughters just, paid them very, not very often. So it make me think of, it will never happen in China.
In China, yeah.
It will never happen in China, yes. And so, but also, this is where I see a big difference between Chinese and Western culture. And, by the way, I remember watching one of your videos where you said you grew up watching Chinese Kung Fu Hollywood movies, right?
I did. Right? I think every kid in the West probably did. Every kid in the West probably did.
What I'm trying to say is, I tell you a very funny thing is that I grew up watching real Tai Chi Kung Fu masters. My father,
wow.
yeah. My father is a real Tai Chi master, and he even
your father
has that. Yeah, exactly.
Can I meet your
It's
father?
very
Can
interesting.
I?
Of course, of course, of course.
Wow.
I will tell him. Basically, she has a training school now where he's teaching people to do Tai Chi. So,
Wow.
but unfortunately, despite all the opportunities I've had, I don't know how to do Tai Chi. So it's very unfortunate. But having grown up with it by ear, I love the underlying Chinese philosophy behind the Kung Fu.
Okay.
So in terms of education, we are heavily influenced by the Federal Confucian culture in China. So although we value learning, but most of it is to obtain a diploma, and many institutions require a diploma in when they are doing recruitment. So we
Yes.
are used to learning. Well, we are used to learning by rote. But in the West, I think, however, the emphasis is on individual skills. So there is no hard and fast requirement for a diploma. In the UK, I think innovation and critical thinking are key, and the students need to be creative and develop their critical thinking skills. And this is one of the most important things I learned while studying in the UK. So you see the Chinese and the Western cultures have a lot of differences, and there are also many cultural differences. Not the same culture in the same point is that these are for the cultural development of human history. So I think the good culture we should be to retain and appreciation and learn from each other. For some cultural customs do not meet the modern development, I think we really should go to reflect it and remove the chores, I think. So, for example, take an example here. I'm sorry.
It's
Take
okay.
it a little bit long. So, in China, the practice of disrespecting women are gradually improved. But actually, there are still some actual cases, such as the case of the chained woman in Jiangsu province. I'm not sure if you had this news before, but it's really, it's a hard issue at that moment. But you know what? What surprised me about this case was that the vast majority of Chinese netizens spoke out for her, both men and women. And although the local government did not handle this matter very well, but after the constant monitoring and promotion by the Chinese netizens, I think things are at least moving in a good direction. And more importantly, I think this case made me see that people are very aware of the importance of defending women's rights. So I think things are improving.
Yeah.
And back to the difference. So what I'm trying to point out here is that I think that we cannot simply say who is better and who is worse in terms of the cultural difference. For the culture leading to the continued development of human culture, they deserve all of our respect. That's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you've touched on a very, on actually not just one, but very critical points in terms of culture. And if I hear you correctly, one of the things that you're advocating for is that we should respect people's culture, different cultures, because they're from different places, they're from different times. There is always an element of unity in every culture. So every culture has something in common with something else. I'll give you a good example was when we went to Guizhou here in China. Some of the culture of the Miao people, right? Is very similar to a certain culture in Nigeria as well. Very, very similar.
Oh, really?
Like, as soon as I
Wow.
saw it, I was like, wait, what, like, what is this doing here? Like, this is what? And they're like, no, this is for the, I'm like, what? This? Like it was
Really
so
interesting. Yeah.
identical. It was, and you find that is common in a lot of cultures. But the thing is, we just don't take time as humans to actually learn about these things, which is what I feel like you're advocating for. Is irrespective of where anyone comes from, let's take some time to learn about those things, and then we can better understand ourselves better. Which is a great way. I feel like if we do that, the world would be a better place. The world would definitely be a better place.
Totally
So,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
one more question that I want to ask you in terms of culture, more of cultural representation, cultural integration and exchange. China has done quite a lot in terms of integrating a lot of cultures now, even cultures outside of China, into the society. So, what do you think we can do more in terms of young people in China? Because I don't think old people can do anything at this point. In terms of young people in China, what can we do more to enhance that integration between young Chinese people and people from other countries, whether they're young Chinese people, young South African people, young Nigerian people, young American people? What can we do to integrate and exchange more so that we can better respect ourselves and our different cultures?
I think for actually most of young people now in China, actually they are very I think they are more, got integrated with the international friends more than the last generation, like my fathers and my mothers. But but somehow, like you said, actually we can do better. For example, I think the first thing is, of course, we have to. I think we have to broaden our, you know, our site. I think the best way is to do that is to go abroad and all just to say just go outside and talk to different people from different backgrounds and different cultures. It's the easiest way to do that. So just talk. Don't be afraid because most of Chinese young people here, they are actually just afraid to speak English. For take an example, and
I
there,
think,
of course there's some
is it
people can
afraid
speak
or they're just
French.
shy?
Yeah,
I think it's more they're just
yeah,
shy rather than being
yeah. That's
afraid.
what
They're
I'm
just
trying to
shy.
say. Yeah, you're
Okay.
right. They're just shy. They're very shy. So don't be shy. Come on, just go out and talk with people. And that's the first suggestion I would like to take out. And second, I think we just read more about. I think the one of the reason I want to learn English because I want to read the original English books. I want to learn the how they deliver a story about themselves and how the all of the Western culture in the books. So I think read is really important to and also is a very great way to learn the others' cultures and something like that. So please be sure to read more more books about other countries, about the other cultures. And next, I think we I think that's quite weird to say that, but um, I think most of people in China, they we usually because of the culture thing. I think people may not very take importance of privacy. So you will see a lot of people. They may just took a picture about foreigners. So it's for me. It's kind of rude somehow. I think, but actually they didn't realize it. So I think we have to accept the truth is that we actually a culture we have to cons and the pros. I think we have to accept the limitation of our culture. Sometimes we have to accept the mistake or something wrong thing we made so we can fix it. we have to face it so we can fix it. So for the thing we don't respect the other people's privacy, we have to fix it. We can't take any picture without permissions. Take any just take the random pictures of the foreign peoples without permissions. It's not okay, people. Okay, so I think that's the very important thing to learn, and I think things will getting better because most of my friends and realize that that is kind of a matter, so they won't do that. So I think this is something I want to give some suggestions to the young people to show the respect to the other cultures and other peoples from different countries.
Great. Thank you very much. It's I really hope that, your studio, Lightning Studio, will be able to shed more light on these things to the younger generation. But rightly, like you said, the younger generation of Chinese people today are more, they're more internationally acclaimed. They know a lot more than the previous generation. You talk about, people taking photos of you. In my experience, I think
Yes.
it's happened to me maybe once or twice, but it was never a young person. It was, which is why
Oh, really?
yes, it was never a young person. Which is why eventually it took me time to understand why that was happening. And after I understood why, so what I would do is, as soon as I saw that they were taking a picture, I would actually go to them, smile, and say, "Let's take a picture together. Like, you don't have to steal the picture. Let's just take the picture." And then, we talk it out, and then they're like, and then I use that to explain that it's better that you just ask me and say, let's take a picture than trying to steal a picture. And, hopefully in that way, I help them learn that this is not really acceptable. You can just ask, One last thing that I want us to discuss before
Sure.
before I let you wrap it up is the work culture in China. What is the work culture? I can't remember if it's called what's the 9 to
996.
Oh, 996.
996, I
Yes,
think.
996. 996.
Yeah.
You've been in that industry. You've worked in that sector before. What exactly is it like? Because I don't think a lot of people understand what how hectic it is to work in corporates in China. Maybe in corporate, maybe anywhere actually. What is 996?
What is 996? Okay, so basically the 996 how to put it all together. So in speaking of this 996 working culture in China, I think I have to mention a little bit about two phenomena, which is I mentioned also in my podcast about innovation and lying flat. These two phenomena which have emerged in China. Well, these two words, innovation and lying flat, actually reflects that the Chinese young people's struggles in the unnecessary over competition, and some of them just want to give up the competition and just lying, the words showed lying flat. Yes. And I think for the 996 work culture itself, it means the practice of working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. That is said to be common among countries' big technical companies and startups, and I mentioned before the internet industries, and it's really make people very frustrating and very stressful. So that's why I come up with that's why the two phenomena of involution and lying flat emerged fastly in China, and which I think is something we really take it very serious, and we have to think think it very critically. And I think things were getting better, but I'm not sure. But I agree that by supporting the industry transformation, expanding the share of high-end industry, and encouraging young entrepreneurship through national policies, it may be possibly to alleviate the problem of excessive competition caused by, this kind of 96 working culture, or the phenomena of the involution and the lying flat.
Wow. Great. Great. I mean, interesting times. With every society that's growing, we get to see this type of thing happening. People start to push beyond a certain wage group, and then the competition increases. People want to make more money, so the more the country expands, the more these things will happen. But one thing that you also mentioned is the some of the national policies that the government are coming with now, in a bid to sort of help reduce competition, but still incentivize people to want to work and be better for themselves. Which brings me to your documentary, the one that you made, turning 30, which was for your friend.
Yes.
So was that,
Yes.
did you get the inspiration from the work life in China?
Yes,
I see.
yes, exactly. Because at the moment, actually, my friend Stephanie in the video and we both just quit our jobs.
Oh,
But
okay.
but you can tell that when you watch the video, you can tell that we actually held like totally different attitudes about quitting jobs and go back, just taking a break, something like. Because for my friend, she just really stressful, for about her future, about her career. But for me, I think I'm a bit of like calm down, and I think maybe because I know what I want to do, and for her, she's in a situation that she a little bit confusing about what she really like it for her career. So I think maybe this is the reason why we held like totally different attitudes.
And for those who are listening, so Ling directed a new documentary titled Turning 30. It's a documentary about a lady who is part of the work life in the very busy city of Beijing, I believe. Beijing. But,
Yes,
she
basically.
wanted to find something more, something that would make her more happy, right? And she's trying to look for some type of balance in life, and she ultimately quit her job. By the way, if you're listening and you would like to watch this documentary, I will include a link in the show notes for today. Lastly, is there
Okay.
any current project that you are working on now at Lightning Studio? Is
All
there
right.
any
So
project?
I'm currently planning a series of video project called Coming Home. Because I found out actually I'm not totally familiar with my hometown, where I'm living now, because I just got like a very few understanding of my hometown's culture and the people living here. So I really want to get a better understanding of them. So I think I will create a series called Coming Home to try to bring more people to get a better understanding about my hometown, Yunnan's culture and my people's living here. So that, but it's a still just an idea, but I'm trying to
Okay.
make it come true. So that's really what I really want to do. So hope you can see it one day, but not very soon, I think.
Great, great. Well, that's all the time that we're gonna have for today's episode. Thank you very, very much, Ling, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And to everybody who's listening, thank you for coming. A special shout out to Lightning Studios for their feature on this episode. Thank you for the insights and the perspectives that you shared, especially from a young person in China. I feel like that is very critical. And also as a creative, finding your spark, finding something that makes you happy, which is a great thing to say. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Google, and everywhere else you get your podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Ling, our guest today, I will put her link in the description and the show notes. Plus, if you'd like to support the show as well, you can buy us a dumpling through the link in this episode's show notes. And until next time, remember that everything will be perfectly balanced. Thank you and bye.